to a live prompt. I am the host of Pivotal Moment, and I have the host of Common Sense, Micah Logan, with us today. My name is Nikita Foston. Thank you for tuning in. Today, we are going to be talking about the business, the process, the branding, the excitement, the challenge, and some of the benefits of podcasting, right? I have Micah Logan. Let me tell you a little bit about Micah, then we're going to just jump right into it. So, Micah is a business consultant, he's an entrepreneur, he's a 20-year award winning entrepreneur, in fact. He's built his career on ruthless consistency, and he has spanned various sectors from health and wellness to manufacturing to franchising. He is a powerhouse and does one on one business consulting. He is also a writer for Forbes. So let's jump right into it and talk about Common Sense, the name of and the business of your podcast. Tell us, Micah, and tell our viewers why you started it and what you hoped you would gain as a result.
Yeah, well, first of all, how you doing, Nikita?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. God is good, so I'm great.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, so look, I started my podcast because I thought there was room in the entrepreneurial small business space for someone like me who has experience with small business to talk to small business owners and to just kind of let them know about my experience in business and what it was like having to struggle over the years at times, close businesses, the learning process, what I've learned, what I currently learn, and how I can overcome how you can overcome challenges. And everyone has challenges, no matter who you are, no matter how successful you are now. At some point, you've had challenges in the past. From where I sit, and where I started my podcast was because I wanted to help shorten the cycle of getting from where they are today to success. So I thought that I would share what I learned and what I know, and that was the impetus behind me starting the podcast.
And tell us, Micah, for those who may have an idea about like this is what they do or this is what I do, but how do I convert that into a podcast? So you're already a business person and a business owner. Did you
Yeah.
find that that was helpful, or how did that align with the next steps in starting your podcast?
Um, you know, I don't know if it's one to one exactly, right?
Right.
It's kind of more of a you have to first do the work before you can talk about it. And we find
Say
now,
that again. Do the work before you. That's it. That's it. That's a mic drop. Keep going.
yeah, I mean, I think the reality is that a lot of people today, they like you have like these 20-year-olds who build their business on telling people how to be successful when they've just kind of started living life. And so they kind of build success around the message and not around the action of what it takes to actually get there. And so their 6 or 7 figure success in their business is entirely relying on people who believe that they can help get to where they need to be, as opposed to the reality of actually being there. And so I've never really been a person who, in my opinion, like who I look, I believe in I don't believe in faking it till you make it. I just believe in being it, so that once you talk
Period.
about things, that
Yeah.
you can just say, look at my resume. So I think with the podcast, and you first have to start by doing something that's worth
Hmm.
doing, or knowing something. And it could be a podcast about waxing floors, for goodness sake. It doesn't really matter. Know something first and then podcast. I think that's kind of what I find resonates with the audience. What about you?
Yeah, that's that authenticity piece. So whatever you know, if you can talk about it and translate it into the story of what you're doing,
Yeah.
then you can teach somebody something. So you can
Oh
teach
yeah.
people about business, about starting a business, maintaining a business. My podcast is called Pivotal Moment. So I talk to people about the moment in their lives that changed it all, right?
Hmm.
Because everybody needs some inspiration, some motivation, some empowerment. And for me, when I got out of school, I didn't find this dream job, right? But I figured, and I didn't know, to be honest, that I could find like a dream opportunity and create that. And so the podcast gave me an opportunity to tell stories that I didn't hear in other platforms and give people a
Right.
chance to inspire me to say this is how they did it. Because it only
Yeah.
takes that one moment, Micah, one moment to change everything.
Right.
Yeah, so you take what you know and you package it in a deliverable, and we call it a podcast, but other people might call it something else. But getting the story out and helping other people tell theirs, right?
Well, over the course of human history, it's been different things. It's been sitting around the campfire. It's
That part.
been spending time with your grandfather, your
Yeah.
grandmother. It's
Yeah.
been spending time with your parents. You know, in Deuteronomy in the Bible, if you're a believer, it talks
Come
about,
on.
you know, it talks about, like the parents should teach their children when they lay
Yes.
down, when they get up, when they walk the road, right? So the
Yes.
reality is that over the course of human history, storytelling and educating the next generation of humans and people who should learn more has come down to storytelling and conversation. And so podcast is just the modern day form
Version.
of spending time with another party and informing them about things that you know. So instead of talking directly to just your grandson or your granddad or your grandmom or your mom or your aunt or your
Yeah.
uncle, you're talking to all the aunties and uncles out there, you know?
That's facts. That's facts. That's aunties and uncles, and you can tell your story beyond your immediate to those who might immediately need your message. So
Sure.
rather than telling it, to one person, you can scale that to have and reach so many others, and that is kind of the benefit and the joy, I think, of podcasting. So let me ask you this:
Hmm.
you're also a writer for Forbes. Tell
Yes.
us about how that plays into your background and your expertise as a business consultant.
I don't know, Nikita, to be honest with you.
You don't know.
No, I have no idea. No,
That's
the
hilarious.
so basically, I again, I spent my life just working and doing stuff. And I've never really have taken the time to look back at the things I've done because I'm not done yet, right? And so
Hmm,
like a football player when he's not retired yet or a basketball player when he's not retired yet, they just still perform because they want to win the championship. And in life,
I
your
like
report
that.
card as an adult is who you are, what you bring to the table, generally speaking, and the collection of wins over the years and losses, and how you've overcome those losses. And so I was focused on that. And so I sold one of my companies back in 2023, October 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And, after that, I had to figure out what additionally I wanted to do because I was already running the manufacturing firm I'm the CEO of now at that point for 3 years. And
Let's
I,
go CEO. Let's not just gloss over that. Always the CEO. Let's go into that because
yeah,
no,
sure.
no, no. I feel like being the CEO, becoming the CEO, creating the space to get to that level
Yep.
takes a lot, like you said, of knowing something and then taking what you know and sharing that with people. So I
Mhm.
just wanted to point that out that as the CEO, you have a certain vantage point. So you can talk
Yeah.
about the wins and how to keep that winning attitude as you move on. So go on.
Yeah, so I just started writing like on LinkedIn articles, and
Yeah.
I wrote blogs, LinkedIn articles. I put content out there. I have my podcast too, and then Forbes just contacted me. They said that they
Mm,
like what I was putting out there. Someone, whoever that quote someone is, told them to contact me. So
yeah.
thank you to that someone. I don't know who it was. Obviously, someone who maybe told them I had a voice,
Mm,
specifically for business. But I've always kind of try to focus on mastering business. And I did a podcast, I think it was earlier this morning or yesterday morning. I can't tell the days are blending together, but um, where I was interviewed and I was talking about just I used to fly around the country learning from the best in different business segments. And so what I would do is I would spend this is going to sound weird to people who are listening hours and hours coming up with my one best question. I
mm,
didn't want to bore them with many questions. I only wanted to ask one because there was always a lot of people in line waiting to pick their attention. So what I would do is I would spend so much time thinking about my absolute best question, and I would iterate this question for a long time before I would even get up to meet them and talk to them. So I usually get to the front of the line, and I would talk to the person who was like leading the thing, and I said, "Listen,
yeah.
for the last 16 hours I've been thinking about one question to ask you and one
Wow.
question only. This is my best question. I don't have a better question. Here it is." So I would
Wow.
ask them my one best question, and then I would take their answer, and then I would go back to my hotel room while everybody else was partying and drinking and networking. Probably should have been networking at least, but I didn't. I would sit in my hotel room and I would iterate. I would be thinking about the answer to that question for 3 days. Like I would just sit there and I would
Wow.
try to figure out how I could work on my business. And over the years, that's just kind of what I did. I've
Mm,
always tried to. when you failed in business, you have to think about how to not just never fail again. I mean, we're all human, we're going to fail, but like
Yeah.
you want to string together the wins. Look, if you go 11 and 5, 12 and 4, whatever the case is, you're doing pretty good. So, that's what you want to do.
I feel like, Micah, the process of getting to where you are has so many different iterations. And what you mentioned about that one question makes me think about the elevator pitch that people always say you need in
Hmm.
case you meet someone and you want to tell them who you are and what you want in one question. That's a statement. You
Yes.
formed yours as a question to the right person that you need that answer from to come back and create or craft your next step.
Hmm.
When we talk about next steps for those who are watching, the business of podcasting also includes kind of like the setup. So we talked about this a little bit the other day about like your equipment. So
Yeah.
what do people need to create their first podcast, and how long should they plan before they actually launch?
You answer first, and then I'll answer after you.
That was smooth. That was very smooth. So I started my podcast back in 2018. I
Mhm.
started with just a regular recorder in my closet, a very
Right.
small closet that I had, and I put up some foam on the walls to make it soundproof, so it sounds very crisp. So you would know that like I'm talking to somebody from the Chicago Sky or talking to some athlete or somebody, but I'm recording from the closet.
You were
Um,
sitting on your Jimmy Choos.
you know, but you know what, Micah? Like you
Uh huh.
say, start where you are.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
so I don't know what is this, 6 years later, 7 years later now. I do it in my living room, but I just have a cell phone, I have a tripod,
Right.
and I have this great app called Riverside. Shout out to
Mhm.
Alive Podcast Network and Angel Livis. And then we are now like on these TV platforms, but we also have the Alive original platform as well.
Right.
So to your question, Micah, the equipment that you have is the equipment that you start with wherever you are. I don't
Yeah.
advocate to go out and buy hundreds of dollars of equipment or thousands.
Mhm.
Start with your phone and a tripod, or if you have like a kickstand on your phone, you can use that. And even if you're not ready to post, sometimes it's good to just record yourself and
Yeah.
then look back on it, think about it, think how you can make it better, and think about what you would want to know. And that's where you
Yeah.
can start.
Yeah, I can. I mean, I think that's great advice because oftentimes people think that you need all this fancy equipment. You have to like get in the place where you're just consistent with recording. I think get
Yes.
your thoughts out there.
Yep.
Try to find your voice. Try to find. Look, it takes a long time to find your lane. People think it's easy in podcasting to find your lane like year one. You don't find your. I don't know. In my opinion, you don't find your lane until maybe like a couple years, 3 years, maybe even 4 years later. I feel like it's ever changing, and sometimes even after 4 years, you may still have to adapt and change. I started with borrowing stuff from people. Like, I don't know,
Hmm.
like all of us know an artist, maybe a couple artists, someone who wanted to be a DJ or something. Like, somebody has a mic, somebody has a stand, and now they have kids or something, and then like they don't have time. So
Yeah.
like, I just started kind of borrowing equipment. When my
Nice.
podcast originally launched,
Mhm.
it launched in my podcast co-host at the time in his basement, and that's where we did
Mhm.
it. It was every
Yep.
Thursday, same time. We were super consistent with it,
Yeah.
and it kind of started to grow from that. Like we started with the love of it. We had this we had a segment on our podcast. I remember where we would pop some like
Uh-oh.
Macallan or Scotch or bourbon or something. It was actually pretty fun. And then it just kind of transformed. And then the podcast, and then my co-host, he couldn't do it anymore, so he moved on. And
Uh,
then as my podcast became more popular,
mm-hmm.
and I decided to go from audio to YouTube, and I
Yes.
started YouTube about a year and a half ago or so, and I was so inconsistent for the first
Mm.
like 8 months, like every 3 months, or like it
Yeah.
was it was super inconsistent. And I had like 20, like 24 subscribers, and I
Yeah.
was like, how come my YouTube's not growing? It's like I'm putting, but I wasn't
But
consistent, right? So I started being consistent like about a year or so ago, and I went from 24 subscribers to over 600, and
wow.
I'm on like 625 now, which for a lot of people is small, but
It's growing.
I think in terms of filling a stadium. I told you this the other day.
Yes.
So the attendance, I think the max capacity of the Garden in Boston is about. Let me see. I'm gonna do the math right now. Nineteen
Uh-oh.
thousand 580. Okay.
Okay.
Each there's a million sections in there. Each section probably has between I don't know 600 some sections, 1,000, whatever. How I think about this is filling section by section, right? So getting
Mm-hmm.
enough subscribers to fill a section of the Garden. Eventually, I'll be at 19,580. I would have filled my stadium. That's the only. That's the goal I have. I will be consistent until I fill my stadium, 19,580, whatever that is. So I've already
Easy.
knocked off the 580 part. I only need to do 19,000.
You are on you're practically there. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
you're practically there.
In my
Um,
head, I'm there.
that's where it starts at. That's the mindset. So as a man
True.
thinketh, so is he. Don't start preaching in here. But that's what the word says. So we gotta start with how we think about what we're thinking about, right? And so I want to ask also now, you mentioned getting your audience and being consistent. So when you are building that audience, talk to us about how you're coming up with ideas for your show. So people who are listening and they might, have a certain vantage point, how do they come up with the ideas for a show?
That's the hardest part, I
Mm-hmm.
think, because you're trying to figure out who your audience is, and then you're trying to figure out what your audience likes, which is really, really hard.
Yeah.
Um, I think, like anything, any relationship in life, whether you're married, you're dating, you're engaged, or just friendships, you have to listen to the other person to try to figure out what they're telling
Yeah.
you. And I think the same thing with the podcast, right? Like
Yep.
podcast listeners will tell you what they want to hear. It is not until you do it that you know, till you put the content out there that you'll actually find out. Sometimes it takes a long time, sometimes it takes a little time. I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. I did a podcast when the California fires were raging, chewing its way through Los Angeles. And right
Mm-hmm.
before a lot of the insurance companies pulled out of the area, I did a podcast about just generally speaking how the insurance companies pulled out. I always come from an apolitical business lens. I'm not a political guy, so
Yeah.
I stay neutral in politics. So like I just strictly business for me, and then I just kind of report on what the politicians did or what they said or what they thought.
Mm-hmm.
Not interested in getting into those debates. They're annoying.
Right.
So um, instead, I just kind of reported on what's going on, and
Yeah.
I had thousands and thousands and
Mm-hmm.
thousands of views, about 8,000 views on that
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and I had people in the comments. Some people talking politics. I don't. That is one thing. I let you know free speech do its thing in the chat, um, and people were talking. But one person thanked me for covering it, and I
Oh
thought that
wow.
was actually pretty cool.
That
Um,
is.
just kind of shining a light on it. I had never thought about a person who might either have a relative or who lived in California who might want to, call attention to it. But the fact
Mm-hmm.
that I kind of put on the podcast and thousands of people saw it, and you never know who at a company may have seen it or an
Absolutely.
employee and how they pass it. You just kind of talk about it, and it kind of goes from there. So, you know, it's stuff like that that makes
Mm-hmm.
a difference. I talked about car repossessions. That got a
Ooh.
lot of views, and how
Yeah.
the car market crisis has skyrocketed. And then people were talking in the don't get stuff that you can't afford. Like people were talking about other people. It kind of made me laugh. But like the point is that people will tell you what you should talk about.
Yeah. I think it's so important, as you said, to kind of be in tune with your audience and to ask them what they want to hear more of or something totally different. I think you even did a poll on one of your YouTube channels or videos where you asked people, do you want to hear this, or this? It to
Yes.
give people an opportunity, sort of like a
Mhm.
poll to kind of plug
Yeah.
in and see where they are and where they aren't.
And not
Talk
just
to
a poll about what to talk about. It was a
Yeah.
poll about what angle to cover. So
Yeah,
like
because
it
it
was
goes to
like,
like different options, right? Like
yeah,
multiple
it was
choice.
like,
Yeah.
okay, I want to talk about this.
Yes.
What should I talk about within this framework too? So
Within that.
like guiding, get even more micro, and
Yeah.
people responded to it, which I was shocked because I always do stuff online thinking nobody's gonna hear me, see me, talk to me, or respond,
Yeah.
and I'm just talking to myself. But apparently some people they do, so that's exciting.
it is exciting to get that engagement and to see the numbers. And it's interesting to find out where the numbers go up for what topics. I
Yeah.
remember interviewing a YouTuber who was a makeup artist who did like celebrity makeup, and
Hmm.
that got like a lot of downloads and questions about how do I start my YouTube channel, and if I
Right.
do makeup or if I do hair, how can I do this? And so, to your point, you may not know who's listening, what they're going to get out of it, and what they're
Right.
going to want more of.
Yeah.
But it's really nice to get like good feedback and things like that.
Oh,
Let
I
me ask.
interviewed John McAfee, the inventor of
Mm,
the McAfee antivirus, and
yes.
he's dead now. He died a few years ago, I think
Oh
2021
wow.
during COVID.
Oh wow.
He was a fugitive. He was on the run
Oh
when we
gosh.
interviewed him. So he was in an undisclosed location. We met his wife. We could not talk to him about where he was. He wouldn't answer the question. But the podcasting,
Top
if
secret.
you
Top secret.
yeah, literally, he was on the run,
Yeah.
right. So like, uh, we were talking to a fugitive from justice, but he ended up getting
Wow.
arrested. They captured. He was extradited back to the U.S.
Get out.
Um,
You had the
and
inside scoop.
huh?
You had the inside scoop.
Uh,
Like that's an exclusive in
we
the
spent an
book.
hour and 15 minutes,
Yeah, yeah, that's an
and
exclusive.
but the funny thing, he was such a crazy guy, but like you could tell that he processes things in the world a little differently. But he was very
Wow.
it was a crazy kind of guest. So
That's
podcasting,
insane.
what I mean about podcasting about it's not just about reaching your audience. That's one part of it. The other part of
Yeah.
it is what you learn when you're podcasting, right? Because if you kind of humble yourself to just the conversations like
Yeah.
what we're having right now, and you're willing to learn from people who you speak to,
Yeah.
it's like the stories you hear and the things that you know about the people you meet, like are crazy. You know, I've interviewed um, expeditionist who did
Mm,
expeditions all over the world in the
wow.
crazy. He went to the South Pole.
Oh
He's
goodness.
been to um, he's been to the South Pole. He's been on Antarctic missions. Like it's been kind of
Wow.
crazy, and just hearing his story about how he started. He was a firefighter, and then he wanted to do something a little bit more interesting. Like
That's a lot more interesting.
it's a
That's
lot more
amazing.
interesting. Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy, but that's kind of what you get when you start a
Yeah.
podcast. So you have to, if you're coming from it from like I want to make $1 million from it, we'll talk about
Probably
that in a
not.
minute.
That
But
that's another question. But I do think you're spot on in terms of what you're learning and what you learn from the guest, even more so than what you think you might know, right? For me, I was a journalist in my prior life, so a lot of my guests have come from people I've interviewed in entertainment or news or sports, and I've reached back to those contacts not only to say what are you doing and what did you learn, but what's your pivotal moment? What was that
right,
moment that changed it all? And a lot of them have started businesses, or a lot of them have had a second career. And I think my very first guest was Michael Collier, and he had just come from the BET Awards, and he was just talking about, oh, I talked to Jamie Foxx, I talked to this person, and he was so funny, and I was
right,
very nervous, even though I was a journalist and I, interviewed people. This was sort of like my first own show, and
hmm
so you want to do well, you want people to perceive you well, but then you also want to do well enough to people so people can keep watching and keep
right.
listening. At that time, it was just it was just the audio version. But as I've gone on, I have been just shocked at how inspiring my guests are to me personally.
Right.
The viewers get something. I remember interviewing Brian Courtney Wilson. He's won a couple. He's been nominated for a couple of Grammys, couple of Stellar Awards, a gospel
Hmm.
artist, and he challenged me to sing. And I was like, "There's no way on God's green earth that I would sing in person, or let alone like on video." But he talked about walking in your truth, moving past your fear, and letting God do his great work. And that was the sound, or that was the title of his song at the time, was number one.
Right.
And letting God do his work. And that resonated with me so deeply. And so it's just sometimes you come away with stories and people and quotes and things to live by that you had no idea you were going to get from that guest. And it often leads you to the next guest, right?
Hmm.
And based on what your audience gets from that show, you might know what direction or something totally different that you didn't think about before. And I want to ask you now also,
Well, do
Mike.
you know how
Yeah.
Richard Branson, Drake, and Mick Jagger work privately? Do you know how they
No.
work? How they think?
How?
I do because I interviewed their assistant. They all shared the same assistant. So like my point of like podcasting is you get to know these people
You
with
said
W
Mick Jagger. What was the third? Mick Jagger,
Richard Branson
Richard
and
Branson,
Drake.
and Drake. Heavy
Right.
hitters.
They all had the same assistant over
Oh
a period of
wow,
time. This woman who was their assistant, she learned a lot from them. And like,
wow.
our podcast on the Common Sense Show on YouTube, you can find it, is is
You got
all,
a point.
we talk about that, right? Like
Yeah,
we talk about, like, you get an idea of how different people work and kind of what their
true,
background is. It
true.
actually is pretty cool. Even the ones that appear like a boring topic are very interesting if you actually have the patience to kind of listen to them.
And I would think that
So,
an assistant who has been an assistant for Mick Jagger, for Richard Branson, for Drake, has all kinds of stories. And
oh yeah.
so having the vantage point of someone who is basically in the room
Some
is,
of which are NDA'd, I'm sure.
yeah, well, you'd think so, you would think so. And I want to ask you, Micah, about staying organized because we've talked
Okay.
about a few different topics. You have a few different businesses. You've
Hmm.
interviewed people all over the world who are traveling. You travel a lot. How do you stay
Yeah.
organized with your podcast to stay and keep that cadence and keep coming up with ideas?
Yeah, so I found a couple of ways to do it. So the first way that I like to record is I just like to kind of flip on the camera and go. One take, one shot podcast where I don't have to edit. I go live, I talk to my community, and I just kind of keep talking. And like, people will engage. It's nice to kind of get a thumbs up. People ask questions, they chime in. Like, we laugh. Like, people send me links, and then I look at those links while we're actually in the show, and then like we'll talk about it. There's a million different things you can do when you have a community, right? I tend to like
Yes.
the version of podcasting that's live and
Mm-hmm.
interactive with people in the audience
Yeah.
more so than just kind of doing video on demand and then you're uploading and editing the video. I mean, that's
Yeah.
fine,
Yeah.
and you need to do it, but like, I like one take, one shot live broadcasts. I never thought I would like it as much as I do, but I actually do like it very much
It's sort
so.
of liberating, right? Because you never know what you're going to get. It's certain kind of, and it's a different
Yeah.
energy, right?
Oh yeah, it's a different
Yeah.
interview, but even when I'm just doing my show without a guest, it's
Yeah.
much better because I don't know, I'm mildly ADD, so like I'll kind of like go off on a tangent, and then I'll be like, you know what, let's just look at this. And I don't know why it's so intriguing to watch somebody look up something on the internet and just talk about it, but it is, right? It's like
It
you
is.
watch me Google something, or you watch me look on X
Yeah.
about something and someone's thoughts on something, and then just talk about their thoughts. It's something that is entertaining, and then you just talk to me about your thoughts about my thoughts about their thoughts, right?
Correct,
It's kind of a
correct.
weird
It's
circle.
it's addictive though, because I do
Yeah.
that with YouTubers. Like I'm watching them look at something, and there's this criminal lawyer that I watch called Bruce. Criminal Lawyer Reacts, and he
Bruce
covers these.
Rivers.
Yeah, Bruce Rivers. I love Bruce
Yeah.
Rivers, so I watch him react to these videos all the
Ripped
time.
to his son, Michael.
I
Tragedy.
know. Oh, that was so sad. I used to,
I know.
the fact that he even came back. I didn't know if he would even come back and continue the show after that, but I was so
He
glad that he
actually
did.
seems very much at peace. Now, I wonder
Yeah,
if that has to do with the fact that he was constantly worried about his son
yeah,
and
on
his
drugs.
drug addiction,
Yep.
and the several times he almost died.
Yeah.
Where he didn't know where he
Yeah.
was, if he was okay, but obviously now he
Yeah.
does. So like, I wonder if there's some of that tied into that. As tragic as him not being there, he very much seems like I'm sure he's in pain that he's not there, but like the fact that he doesn't have to worry. I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I've never gone through that, so I don't know, but it just
Yeah.
appears that way to me.
I totally agree with that. When you don't have to worry, you don't have that anxiety, you can live a different life
Hmm.
because you know your child is not going to be, or you're not going to get a call that something has happened to them because they're
Right.
already at peace now. So that you can have a different measure of peace. And I'm glad he's doing it. I really, really like his show. And that brings me to another part of our conversation about guests and booking your experts
Sure.
and
Take your
um,
time. We have an hour here, or we have more. I don't know.
I think we have 55 minutes. I think we're just about 30 minutes into it.
Okay.
So,
Keep going. We got plenty of time.
yeah. I will ask about the process of booking guests because sometimes you do just a one person show where you're talking and you're sharing or you're doing a kind of a review show, but then other times you're interviewing experts to give us information about what we need to know. How do you go about, yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't fully flesh out the answer to the previous question. I just
Oh,
realized that just now,
please.
which is that what I do is I like one take shots. I said that, but I
Yeah.
do sometimes batch. And so what I'll do is I'll do like a recording of a long show, like a long live show, and then
Yes.
I'll take that live show and then I'll cut it up into
Yes.
clips. It could be 10 minutes of a show, and it could be, let's say that the 10 minutes is talking about a specific controversy,
Mm-hmm.
or it's talking about a specific business topic, and I will clip that specific section out. I'll retitle it that matches that specific
Yes.
section. I'll
Yes.
re-thumbnail it so that it has its own specific thumbnail and title, and then I'll post it. And or I'll take like clips, right?
Yeah.
Now clips can go up to like a minute,
Mm-hmm.
3 minutes on Reels, YouTube. Like they're all kind of expanding to about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Um, but like I'll take and I'll clip that as well. And so there's some days where like I'll have to batch record. Like I just recorded a video today about a Cracker Barrel ridiculousness, and so like
Oh, the logo.
yeah, the logo. So that I'll post that one tomorrow, and then I'll go back and I'll clip that. The video itself is going to end up being probably 11 to 12 minutes, but then
Yeah.
I'll clip the 12 minutes into like little sections with the link. And now with YouTube, you can do the like related video where
Yeah.
like they click on it and then it goes to the full video. So that's pretty cool.
That's
So
so smart too, because you're taking one piece, but then you're able to kind of repurpose and break it up into smaller pieces. So then you
yeah,
don't have just one hour show. You have like 10-minute segments that will
that's right.
make people want to go to the, full
Yeah,
shows.
that's
That's
10
the
videos.
That's the key, because people can get burned out quickly,
Hmm.
and people can lose their consistency because they feel maybe overwhelmed. Like they
Right.
may do one show, it takes forever, they don't know about editing and all this stuff. But if you do one show and you're able to make that 10 segments, you can
Mhm.
kind of rest for a bit and then
Oh
start on
yeah,
your next show.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I also want to ask about AI. We talked about this a little bit
You
the
want me
other.
to talk about booking guests?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Look at me. I got it. I got excited. I got excited. I got excited. I'm sorry. So we're gonna go back to the guests. Thank you, Micah. I was already on to the next topic.
I don't know. I know so many things we want to talk about.
I want to make sure we get it
Who
all
only gave us
in.
55 minutes? We want an hour and a half. You hear me? We demand it. We
Angel,
don't want
that's Micah. That's
55
not me.
minutes.
Angel, I'm taking my 55. Thank you.
I'm telling
Um,
you, an hour, 90 minutes.
but no, guests can kind of make or break, and
Sure.
but I would say make, because you still get something out of everyone that comes on, and hopefully they
No,
get
let's be
something
real
too.
for a minute, okay? Okay, there are guests that are so dreadfully boring, and you have to sit there for these people. And so you can tell if I think, well, can you tell? I don't know if you can
Said
tell.
dreadfully boring, not just boring, but dreadfully boring.
Dreadfully boring. So like there are times when if my podcast is like 20 minutes or 30 minutes with a guest, that means you suck. Like I don't want to talk to you anymore, and I want to just kind of like I want to just shut it down.
Wow.
I want to shut it down while they're talking, but for the sake of my own reputation, I kind of just hang in there and let them finish, but it's terrible. I
Ooh.
glaze, there's nothing really to talk about. Move
Wow.
on. Like it's sometimes the ones that are boring are the people who try to come on your show and pitch their services
Oh,
and stuff
gotcha.
like that,
Yeah,
as
yeah, yeah,
opposed to just being an expert, right?
yeah.
Never let someone take over your podcast trying to pitch their own specific thing for like an
That
hour,
part.
right?
Yeah,
Have
yeah,
them come on your show and explain their expertise, right? Me
yeah,
going on someone's show, and now you may find business boring, but if I went on your show to talk about how you build the business, how you build operate strategic management, how
yeah,
you are able to build processes and the workflows. Those things may be boring to some people, but I get to showcase my expertise because I'm going to take you through the process of doing so, how to become
yes,
profitable, whatever the case is. However, if I come on like, dude, I'm a business coach and you can click my link, like, and this is what I've done, like,
the first 10 subscribers, yes,
it's you know what it is. It's selfish. It's not really giving to anyone. It's not
yeah,
really giving anybody something to take away. And I'm about takeaways, right? Like, what can I take away today that you can and implement like today and tomorrow, like
yeah.
immediately. You know?
And you know what? If you are being authentic in your delivery and your story, people are gonna want to know how to follow you, what to get, how can you
Right.
help them, how can you serve them. So way leads on to way, like the road less traveled. And so if you are putting yourself
What
in
did
a
you say?
position,
What's that?
I said the road less traveled,
No, the ones before that.
way leads on to way.
I never heard that before.
Yeah, like, one thing, like if you do one thing, you're going to get something similar to that thing. You know, you do one
Interesting.
thing, you get another. And so I feel like if those folks, you know, if a guest is coming on and sharing their true story, then people are going to want to know more of it. You know, that's what I think personally. Right? You
Oh,
don't
for
have to
sure.
pitch yourself. You don't have to pitch yourself.
You
Um,
don't have to pitch yourself. I mean, and that
yeah.
comes. So I was invited to give a panel discussion at
Mm.
an executive conference in Chicago
Mm.
3 year, 2.5, 3 years ago, something like that. I was on the board of the conference as well, and
Mm.
I don't know why I said that, but it just makes me that much more fascinating, I guess. But
It's creating the background. Go on.
yes, there you go.
Mm.
And I started talking about just I was storytelling about how we could get a marketing message out there to the masses of the people in our industry. How do we convince the general public in general? I didn't mean to is a double positive. How do we convince the general public messaging how to become attracted to what we're trying to say, or how
Yeah.
do we create alignment in the industry across the board? And so I was talking about Edward Bernays and how
Mhm.
socially the social economics of and the psychology of social engineering when it comes to, well, for him it was increasing the sale of bacon and protein across the United States. And so I the reason why I went that road was because I
Yeah.
wanted to talk about how you can socially engineer a message to appeal to the
Mhm.
message using both authority, proof, and expertise. And when you blend it together in an appetizing message, people are attracted to it, right? Um,
Authority, proof, and
and so I did
expertise.
this same thing with them that I was talking about with him.
Yeah.
Um, and it hit, and people were coming up to me afterwards like, hey, like that was super
Yes.
interesting, super fascinating, tell me more about that, how do I do this, how do I do
Hmm.
that. So when you come on and you just share your expertise, when you just
You
like kind
do.
of like let yourself go, I mean, to
Yeah.
your point like earlier, then people will find you.
A
I wasn't
hundred.
looking for them, I didn't say come up and see me afterwards, I wanted to be left alone, but they came up and they were still talking to me, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
I mean, I think that your story has so much value for people who are looking to know how can I do it? How can I do this? How can I learn this? Or how can I do what I'm doing better? And often I will say to people, to my students even, don't ask people for a job, ask them for knowledge. Because people will give you knowledge a lot more freely, and sometimes much more easy than to actually get you a job. So, I do some adjuncting in the summers, or I have been here and there at Northwestern, and some of my journalism students who are graduate students are trying to position themselves for roles in journalism. And
Right.
so, what I tell them is be your authentic self. And as I said, like ask for knowledge and not for the job. And people will be inclined to look for you to give you a job once they've built that relationship. And so, so much of what you're saying and what we're talking about has to do with relationships and
Yeah.
creating those relationships, whether you're getting a guest, whether you're going and being a speaker because people want your expertise because you're on a board, or if you're talking to someone who is an assistant for Drake, Howard Stern, and Richard Branson. So because of those relationships that you've built, Micah, you've been able to do so many things in so many different sectors.
Well, let me ask you a question, Nikita. How do your students respond to that message?
They are actually very
Do they know how to respond, or do
well.
they just sit there like
No,
the llama with the
no, no,
haircut that
no.
goes like
Actually,
that to the side and just like staring at you, like from the
you know what
Empire
they say?
got has new clothes movie? That you ever see that movie with the llama
Right.
that just stares? Anyways, go ahead. Like,
It's a
is that how they
cartoon.
stare at you?
It's a cartoon
It is, yeah,
with David Spade.
yeah,
He's a
exactly.
speaker. It's hilarious. That's one of my
Hmm.
favorites. I used to watch with my daughter. It's fantastic, and they they may look perplexed initially, but what I say is this is what I did. So I'm not telling you what I don't know. I'm telling you exactly what I did. And
Right.
so I would be just like you. If you were speaking, I would come up and say afterwards, how did you learn that? How can I follow you? How can I learn more? Can I pick your brain? Do you have 10 minutes of conversation? Can I do a quick Q&A
Right.
as an informational? And I say to them, do it while you're still in school when you're not looking for a job, where you're just looking for knowledge, so that when you get done, it's much easier to secure that position. You got to build those networks before you need them. And that
Yeah.
starts when you're starting your process and not when you're at the end. So my students, I'm biased, but I think they're spectacular. And I think that the things that I tried to share
It's got to
were
be one
most.
dumb one in the bunch. I'm sure there's one that you're like, you look at them, you're like, that kid is not
No,
going to make it.
you know what? I figure if you are coming to this school and if you
She didn't
are,
say it, y'all. If y'all watching this, I said it, not her. So
they
she
are
said it
not.
again.
Not only are they super smart, but they're very driven. And I think
Very.
when you get to grad school, as you know, like you're either, even if you're on scholarship, there's money being expended for you to learn, and you
Right.
take it a lot more seriously, I think, than you do in undergrad. But they were very, very hungry for knowledge. And so I would, now that I know you, I'd say, well, I have a colleague, Micah Logan, who's an entrepreneur, who's a business master, who does like this whole program, and you should speak with him about doing an internship or doing a shadowing, or pick his brain about how he did that, because that knowledge opens doors. When people see that you are, number one, asking questions, and two, ready to do the work, they will make opportunities and find them for you. There's not usually a week where I'm not sending somebody either a job that I've seen or helping them to get a job where I can help in some kind of way. So it's just about relationships, don't you think, in terms of how you
Absolutely.
can help other people and yourself?
I think so. Like, that's why I spend a lot of time speaking in underserved communities as typically a professional guest speaking
Yeah.
to kids in high
Yeah.
school, because that is a great time to get, you know,
In there.
if you want an adult that can think,
Mm,
it's a good time to talk to someone before they have the trappings of an adult,
oof.
when they don't know how to manage their freedom. I mean,
Say that again, Micah. Come on,
well,
let's go back to the trappings of an adult.
yeah,
Yes.
I mean, well, everyone's, teenage life is different, right? Like, everyone has different family, different circumstances, and they all can't be the same thing. But one thing that we do know is that there are narrow constraints when you're a minor, even if they're very few, that you don't have as an adult. And the biggest issue with people is that they don't know how to handle their freedom in a good way. So, like, oftentimes they get free and they get lost. So, like, by
Yes.
giving them something to aim at,
Yeah.
or or at least structuring their thoughts so they can,
Yep.
put it in a framework to think about, it at
Yes.
least helps them to guide their way. And so, like, one of the
Hmm.
reasons why I do those chats is because I want them to think like me, right?
Yes.
Now, I'm putting my message out there. I'm not
Yeah.
putting the message. So, I'm on a panel. There's five people talking.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on full black panels. I'm just being honest, and there's people talk about different things about the community,
Yeah.
right? About you know, social justice and all this other stuff. I'm about business. I don't talk about all
Mm.
that. I talk about business. My message is very straightforward, and so, like, everyone will pick something that they can get behind.
Yeah.
And my message to them is very simple: don't fake it till you make it. Just be it. How do you be it? You pursue things that make you it. You ask
Mm.
questions. You ask more questions than you answer, right? You
Yes.
talk less,
That's it.
listen more.
That's it.
You find people, or you're in the orbit of people who can help you get what you want, or to help
Mm-hmm.
teach you the things that you want to be taught.
A hundred
You
percent.
humble yourself through the process, and you learn, you glean, right? If a crumb falls off the table of someone who
Yeah.
is super wealthy in
Yeah.
knowledge, you take that crumb and you build bread. Like, it's
You
like all that
do.
stuff.
Come on, 100% yes. You don't know how that one seed that you plant can yield a harvest for days, years to come, right? And just getting the access to the mindset of someone who's doing what you do or is
Right.
going where you go can be a game changer.
Mhm.
And just getting access for those young students, like you said, for the high schoolers, or if you're on a panel and these high schoolers are listening to you, for them to know that it is not a secret. It is about consistency and focus and really knowing what your purpose is and learning that sooner rather than later so that you don't have to make all the different, I won't call them mistakes because you learn in everything, but you can get to where you're going a lot faster if you are in tune and in alignment with God's purpose for you. We all have one. And so being able to talk to someone who's walked that path and is still walking it just makes a world of difference. You don't have to do it all on your own because none of us can. You can. If you could do it all on your own, we wouldn't need each other, but we do. And
Right.
so learning and, to your point, listening it makes the difference in everything that you can do and the things you can't do. And so,
Mhm.
um, you mentioned something, Micah.
Integrity is not underrated.
Yeah,
Like
it's
just
undervalued.
by having by having integrity, you're putting yourself on the right side of the distribution. Just
Yes.
learn statistics so you know what that means. And then once you learn what it means, then you'll understand that when you have integrity and you're on the right side, you're putting yourself into a
Yeah.
quartile of people who mostly don't exist, sadly, in today's world.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's undervalued, right? So,
It is. And you know what else, Micah? I think it has to do with kind of being willing to do what people aren't readily doing. Meaning, if you think about how to approach a situation differently than what everyone else is doing, thinking
mhm,
outside the box is what a lot of people call it, but positioning yourself to be seen and standing out for the right reasons. And I'll give you an example in what I share with my students. So, when I was in school, I did not major in journalism. I majored in business, which I should
mhm,
not have, Micah, because I'm not a business person.
mhm,
Um, but what I learned through that process was that I really had something in the journalism realm, in the writing realm. But I didn't come back to that process until like 2 decades later.
right.
And in doing so, I had to take a different route to be seen. And
Mhm,
so I kind of tried to create a space where I would be known as a journalist long before I held that title. So
mhm,
going to places where people who are notables are and saying, "Hi, my name is Nikita Foston. I'm a freelance writer. I'd love to talk with you about your story." And 90% of those people would say yes. And
right.
then creating and selling, or sometimes doing for free, selling those stories to different outlets, um, locally and then nationally, and then allowing that to create a portfolio which could be seen by a national publication. And that first publication was Ebony. And so Ebony's looking at me like, or the portfolio, like, well, how did you interview these people and how did you get sold in these different publications? And for me, as a non traditional student, I had to do a non traditional process. For
Right.
me, that was kind of creating a business where there wasn't one, but where there
Mhm,
was drive and where there was interest. And so I think what you're doing and what you're sharing with younger people who are coming up kind of helps you to kind of do that a lot sooner
mhm.
because you're surrounded with the resources, the process, and the vision to know that this is what I need to do X, Y, and Z. And so I think there's a different appreciation, I think for me at least, because I know all the things that I needed to do, had to learn, and still learning.
Yeah.
But there is a process for getting there.
Yeah. Look, we all complain about adults, but adults are all children. So, I mean, I try
Yeah.
to like go upstream. Like in business, as you know,
Yeah.
um, it's cheaper to go upstream than it is to come downstream because the package gets more and more expensive.
Mm.
The toll in business is currency. The currency is capital. The capital, when the supply is more refined,
Yeah.
costs you way more. When you go upstream and it's a lot more raw, close to the raw
Come on.
material, then it's a lot cheaper. So you expend a lot less energy or
Mm.
currency, and that could just be conversation when you go
Yeah.
further upstream. Going upstream, generally speaking, in the human races, is going upstream and talking to younger kids when they're younger, before they kind of set their path, and that seems like it's worth way more bang for the buck than another way around. There certainly should be an outlet for adults as they kind of, you know, are already somewhat a finished product, but that's
Yeah.
not my jam. I think my message is better suit to like, adults, people who are a little bit who are a little bit younger. Just to kind of help them think. I don't want them to think. I lied. I was joking about them thinking like me. I don't want them to think exactly like me. I just want them to think. And if they can
Absolutely.
think, they can do anything. So
100%. 100%. It's the mindset. It's the mind. I pray for the mind of Christ, but you need the mindset that is mission over challenge, right? So you got to be focused on the mission so that you can be able to deal with the challenge because the challenges will come, and whether that's in podcasting or anything. And I mentioned, or we talked a little bit about the guests. Did you share with us kind of like the best practices that you found works when you're securing your guests or how you go about that?
there are several podcast guest platforms. usually for podcast hosts are free for you to list your podcast and allow guests to kind of find you to get on. You can use Podmatch is not free, I don't think. Well, I'm on there as a guest, so I
Mhm.
can't. I don't know the hosting side, but I think it's either super low cost or it's free. Podcast Match, Podmatch, FM Matchmaker, podcastguest.com. Those are all kind of like those are three kind of starting directories that you can
Yeah.
use to find guests to fill out your roster with. And I've been fairly successful where I have gotten like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guests that have applied to
Nice.
be part of the show, and I can kind of
Nice.
pick and choose who I want. I
Nice.
have people email me, contact me, fill out forms, and try to reach out,
I love that.
and I kind of figure out who I want to speak to,
Yeah.
and then I go from there. So
So,
that's pretty cool. I have a virtual assistant who does all my booking for me, and
mm-hmm.
she's really good. And the reason why it's good is because it gives me a 24-hour operation, right? So like while I'm sleeping, stuff is still happening, work is still getting
Mm-hmm.
done. So my operation is 24/7 now, pretty
It's
much.
the process of it moving when you're not the person that has to move it that makes the difference, right? Because that frees you up to do and be the talent, and you
Right.
can have all the logistics and the marketing and the distribution kind of taken care of for you. Do you?
I'm still working on editing. I don't have a plan for
Oh,
editing yet. Um,
I recommend
Usually,
Riverside.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, Riverside, which is
I
what
know.
we're recording this on, is really is really really good. Um, we talked really brief. I think we got maybe like 4 more minutes left, Micah.
Should be 90. I'm telling. See, didn't I tell y'all 90
You're the
minutes?
numbers person. You're the numbers person, so you got to talk to people.
I
You
know.
got to tell them.
Gotta tell them.
Um,
When something is cooking, you let it cook, right? 90-minute
yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah.
The
You
people here
marinate.
that want to hear it.
But that's a good thing, because like you said, when they're like really bad, it's like 20 minutes and you're done, and you're like, when is this over? But this is good because it's more like just a conversation. It's not like an interview. It's conversation that we're sharing, right?
Conversation is the best form of communication, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like
It's the first
interview,
form.
that's another thing too. If like you're starting a podcast and you're like, what happens now is most podcast guests, if they're fairly sophisticated and they've been on more than two podcasts, they all have a cut sheet, a media sheet, right? Where they give you their media sheet. It typically tells you about them, their background,
Mhm.
who they are, what they're working on, their contact info, any incentives they have that they want to
Yeah.
share with the audience, and then it gives you 10 questions you can ask them during the podcast. And I'm like, I'll ask the questions I want to ask during the podcast. I don't want these questions. These interview questions are nice, but I want to ask what I want to ask.
Ah,
And I typically do. So I
that's
don't even introduce people
hilarious.
anymore because I can't do it justice. I stopped. I started. I kind of do a brief. This person is the head of this, and then after that, I'm like, can you introduce yourself? Because
Oh,
you can talk more fruitfully about yourself than I can, right? It's going to come
hmm.
off way more genuine than me
I
telling you
like that.
more deeply about that.
Yeah, I mean, you just kick it off sooner because you want the
Yeah.
synergy. It's got to be some connection. It can't just be like a kind of this sterile interaction. It has to be the conversation, the continuity, the conversation, the energy. And this is the question that I wanted to ask. Oh, I think we only got 2 minutes.
Ask
It's
away.
about AI,
Uh huh.
because it's everywhere. I interviewed the dean of Northwestern yesterday. I just
Yep.
posted it, and he talked about AI and us learning as journalists how to work within it, but not allowing it to replace humans, right? Because of
Hmm.
course it's drawing from a corpus of what humans have created. What do you see, Micah? How do you use AI in your businesses, in your
Hmm.
podcast, and how does it work for you?
Sure, I'll answer this. Sorry, Angel, we're going over 55 minutes. So first of all, my contract with Forbes doesn't allow me to use AI in writing. Like I can use it as a tool for research,
Sure.
where I would still have to fact check, and of course I can use it maybe for like as an editor for like grammar and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the only way I use it. But I everything I write in Forbes is my own. In business,
Well, let me
AI.
just also say that we don't advocate for AI. As a true writer, like, I am not for AI, but we talked about AI in terms of like the research component, how it
Oh
can
yes,
distill like numbers and things like that, like the basic stuff, not the creative stuff. So go on.
yeah, 100%. So
Yeah.
I am perfectly fine, and actually encourage writers, all writers, to use AI for grammar correction because it
Hmm.
will let you kind of know, like, okay, I've been running on along. My sentences are like 25,000 words. Yeah, and Oh, this article is 2,500
Not
words.
the
Oh my
sentence.
god, that's a run-on sentence. I maybe I
Wait,
should put a couple
not the
periods in there.
sentence. I'm dead.
Um,
Not
Listen,
4,500
if you're a
words.
good writer, you've had one because you've just gone to stream of conscious and you look back and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe
Yeah.
that's a run on sentence. Anyways, in
Yeah.
business, AI, we use it to augment human interaction and um, human interaction in business knowledge base. So for us, where AI makes the most sense in my three companies is with pulling information and knowledge base to deliver and make our customer service interactions more fruitful. That's the
Hmm.
first thing. The second way
Okay.
that we use it is in augmenting our human interaction, plugging the small gaps where human interaction is not available until we can come back and talk to you again. As an example, in my
Mm-hmm.
construction firm, we use AI when the office is closed. Um, One of the things that we do is we have AI receptionists during off hours to take requests, phone calls, schedule appointments,
Yeah.
quotes, and things like that. Where we still tell the individuals that we will still follow up with them the next day, but we're
Yeah.
still able to take their request and they at least feel comfortable that they got the request into us and that we
Yeah.
had something there to actually consider the request and give it feedback, kind of like back to back feedback. So people kind of like the idea that you're able to at least give them some information. But if you
Yeah.
can deliver that and respond with a human being on the other side of that, that's fine. In my consulting business, I use it for instance, I may have written something 3 years ago that is brilliant, but I can't remember it because it's 3 years ago and I've written a million other things since then.
Right.
So I'll use AI to remind me of what it was and what the technique or strategy was behind that because I'm sure I came up with a process or something for it, but I can't remember exactly what it was because maybe I've refined it, I've adapted it, or whatever the case is. So I'll
Okay.
use it as knowledge base to pull up that information so I can maybe refine it a little bit further and maybe use
Sure.
it again with someone who has come around, with.
100%. It's such a it's a tool that we have to learn not only to work within but to harness and to
Yeah.
make it work for what our needs are in whatever business you're in because it's not going away. So we got to figure out a way to work within it, work around it, and benefit from it.
Yeah.
Ideally. Um, do you have any parting words, any words of wisdom, any? I guess should we just keep talking until it cuts off? It hasn't cut off
Yeah.
yet. But
Yep.
I would hate for it to cut off when it does. Um,
Mid sentence, right? Like, I don't know
yeah.
when it cuts off. Do we have a
um,
time limit? Is there a time limit on this?
well, we're at 57 minutes right now, so I'm
If it was
thinking
gonna cut off at 55 minutes,
but
it
it
would have cut
hasn't,
off.
but it hasn't. You know what? I will say this too. I think just in terms of brainstorming, if
Hold on one
you're
second. Before we do that, let's give our outros now, but keep talking because then if it
oh
cuts off, um, they already have the outro.
yeah, go ahead.
All right. So she's Nikita. I'm Micah. We've been talking for 57 minutes now, and it hasn't cut off yet. But if you're
Yes.
interested in seeing or hearing any one of us, you can go to alivepodcastnetwork.com. You can take a look at the Common Sense Show. You can listen to me or go on YouTube and find the Common Sense Show, or you can go to Nikita's podcast. Nikita.
Pivotal Moment with Nikita Foston. We are streaming on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. You'll find all of our episodes as well as our other hosts on those three platforms. You'll also find us on the Alive Podcast Network. And if you want to learn more, come to the summit. We're having a summit in Long Beach, November 4th through 6th. I will be there presenting on storytelling. So, a lot of the things that Micah and I just talked about, you will hear us talk about in much more detail. So, if you already got your podcast or want to start one, come join us in Long Beach, November 4th through 6th. Go to the Alive Podcast Network app and you will see the information on how to register. Yes.
I was gonna apply to speak at that, and then I realized I didn't really know what to talk about, so I didn't end up filling
There's
it
so many
out.
things that you can talk about, and we will have more summits, and maybe there'll be quarterly ones or whatever. But knowledge
Yeah.
is always welcome in whatever venue.
Quarterly, I can't fly out to Long Beach every quarter.
But maybe we'll have it in different places. It's Long Beach this
Okay.
year, but I don't know after that. Where we might be. I will say this. We used to go to NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists,
Hmm.
and I think conferences are just in general an incredible place. If you're a panelist, like sometimes I'm a
Right.
panelist, or I'm being a moderator for a panel, but those kinds of places, whether you want to serve on a panel, be on a panel, or just meet people, are invaluable. And for students, I always tell them to go and volunteer at the conference so they can go for free. That way, they get to meet all the people, take the speakers to their rooms, get all the
Right.
paraphernalia. Like, there are ways to work around whatever the limitations might be. And for a conference, if you want to really go to one as a student, that's one of the things I recommend. I think I met and eventually wrote for as a freelancer people from People and People.com and Reuters and oh gosh, it was another one when I was first starting out, but it was only because I met those people from Reuters and from People at these conferences as a volunteer, as a student. So you get in where you fit in. I know you said don't make it, you said you don't live by fake it till you make it, but I agree that you should get in where you can fit in. And if you're a student, go to the conference, volunteer, and go for free. So,
Well, get it where you fit in is actually an aphorism. I believe that to be true because it means that you offer something and there is a place for you on some level, no
yeah.
matter what level you're in. But that's different than faking what you make it. Fake it till you make it is like you're just trying to be something that you're not, and
Yeah,
people will read
yeah,
right through that. And you
they
should
will.
never do that. You should
And go the other way.
just
Just
be
be
you.
Micah, because nobody can be
That's it.
Micah like Micah. I just gonna be Nikita, because no one, you know what I mean. You just gotta be you.
No one cares. Just be yourself. And like and know something, right? Don't know nothing, right? Don't be yourself and be an idiot. Like be
Yeah,
yourself and know something. It doesn't
yeah.
matter what you know. You can know birds, you can know waxing floors. We overcomplicate knowledge and intellectual, like generally speaking, intellectual activity. We believe that like knowing something is all about knowing something specific. It has to be about rocket science. It has to be about business growth. It has to be
Yeah.
about journalism. It has to be about these intellectual pursuits. It just has to be about something more than other people know, and you will be an
Mm-hmm.
expert. I found
Yeah.
myself hypnotized at watching this guy on Instagram, this shoe cobbler. I have no interest in shoe cobbling. Zero. Less
Yeah.
than zero. Negative. Infinitesimal. 0.621371. I have
That's
no
hilarious.
interest in shoe cobbling, but I'm sitting there watching this guy cobble shoes. He's like a master shoe cobbler, and it's the
Wow.
most fascinating thing I've ever seen. My wife thought I was weird. She's like, "You're so boring," and I was like, "I know. I
You
could
know
be watching
what?
something. I could be watching something else, but like I'm watching this. Like it was just
Yes.
fascinating to me. I have no idea why, right? But like if you master something,
Something.
people will find you, and they're gonna want to know what you know, right? When you're a
Yes.
generalist, you're gonna
Yeah.
get lost in the crowd. But when you're a specialist, people will seek you out for what you know. It's just how it
Yeah.
works.
They always will. And then, like I think Miles Monroe said, don't try to, what did he say? Don't try to make money, try to add value. And wherever you
Mhm.
add value, people will find you valuable, and that
Yep.
is where you will make your mark. And as the word says, a man's gifts will make room for him in this world and bring him before great men. So
Hmm.
whatever your gift is, if you are using it, doors will open. They may not open on day one, but they will open. There,
Right.
you can't deny what God has put in you, and you just have to keep walking that path. And I think continue to listen, and to learn as you suggested. What else do we need to say or share, Michael? We covered a lot.
Before I sold my company in 23, I specialized in two things in the health and fitness world. I specialized in corrective exercise, and I specialized in working with athletes in racket sports. Two of the most
Mm,
random things that you would ever think that someone would specialize. But
racket
as a
sports.
result of my specialization, I had people call me from different states asking to work with me. I've had people pay me exorbitantly more than a regular, fitness coach to work with them and to specifically address some of the issues surrounding pain-free fitness. And then on
Mm,
the racket sports side, I've worked with professional athletes. I've traveled the world. I've had people contact me from around the world. I've had people reach out from different countries, like many different countries.
mm.
Pakistan, Tanzania,
Come
South
on.
America, Australia, UK.
That's it.
They
That's
just
it.
want to know kind of how to make themselves better. When I
Mm,
say specialization, I mean become a specialist in
absolutely.
something. It doesn't matter what it is.
Hmm.
Um, Not in anything illegal. We don't need those specialists.
But let me ask, because we talked about fitness. So how do I? Let me ask you this
How do I
because
lose 5 pounds in 2 days?
how much?
You gonna ask me how to lose 5 pounds in 2 days?
No, well, you know what? Yes, if you can tell me that, I will do it tomorrow. But I love the store. I love your background in fitness and the
Yeah.
access and the athletes and that whole approach to business and that background
Yeah.
in business. My question is, I teach Zumba at the Chicago Southside YMCA. Shout out to Chicago 63rd and Stony. We're right down the street from the Obama Presidential Library, which is being built.
Will
And
it ever be finished?
what's up?
Will it ever be finished? The
Hey,
library?
hey, 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 hey. Whatever is great takes time. You know what I mean? This is where we're slow cooking it. Didn't we talk about that earlier? Settle
Oh,
down,
that's
not
slow.
too much.
That's slow. That's on simmer. That thing.
Not too much on my town, not too much on my library.
All right,
Not too
Chicago,
much.
get your contractors together. Come on.
But we're down the street from the Obama Library. But my question is, um, I've been teaching for I don't know maybe like 8 years now in different clubs, but now at the YMCA I've done it LA Fitness and stuff as well. But what do you find? What is it about the mind and the mind shift that needs to change for us to be consistent in what we do? I guess from a fitness perspective, because I get that a lot in terms of questions, and I just wonder what you think about it, having your worldly perspective on it. What do you find that these trained athletes do that regular people can do?
Um. Well, they're willing to torture themselves, and what I mean by that is this: is that the same area of your brain that's associated with torture is associated with breaking a habit, right? And so the problem is that breaking a long held habit is often feels torturous for us. And it
Yeah.
feels torturous because it's something that we've grown accustomed to. It's something that's safe and we can rely on, even if it's a bad habit. It's something where we find some kind of intrinsic value or comfort personally because maybe food has gotten us through a bad breakup. It's gotten us through
About that.
abuse when we were a kid. It's gotten us through the insults. It's gotten us through a bunch of different things, and it's always been there for us over
Yeah.
the years. Problem is there. The problem is that you should have been there for you as opposed to the food there being there for you, right?
Mm,
And
that's a
that
word.
takes time to kind of learn that. And so what athletes are willing to do is they're willing to break bad habits. Um, and they're willing to when I say torture that's why I said torture yourself, right? It was a
Yeah.
play on what happens in your mind when you have to break a bad habit. They're willing to
That's good.
eat the same thing consistently to achieve the result. They are so obsessed and focused on the results of the brick by brick process and what that ultimately leads to. They're bought in almost religiously to the idea that working every day to achieve a goal is the goal of being a champ. You're a champion
Correct.
before you get there, right? So
Correct.
like
Correct. Correct. Correct.
they're willing to win the day before they win the championship, and they consistently wake up with that mentality and they show up on a
Period.
regular basis. What
It's
I've
the
seen is
outcome, not the process. They are not
it
deterred by
is,
the process because they are focused on the outcome.
but it's like that with anything, right? In
Yeah.
business, even for me in business, over the years, I told you I crisscrossed this country going to conferences, asking one question, staying in my hotel room for 3 days, writing stuff down. It is the process that does
Yeah.
that. It's not just by osmosis. Stuff doesn't
Yeah.
just jump in your head or all this other
Yeah.
stuff. And then sometimes there's in business, what like Nikita, as a journalist, what I know in business and in other realms, like people feel like they can just go out there and do it. Like I see basketball players doing
Mm.
this stuff, I can do it myself.
Yeah.
But it's the sum result of all the work that you put in over the years to try to figure out what to do, how to do it, and do it better. That's made you who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and that brick by brick work of the journey. That's what
That's what
athletes
it
do.
is.
That's what it
Yeah.
is. They
That's the
they
mindset.
love practicing, or if they don't love practicing, they they respect practice and failure enough to know that they have to get through that part, and they're okay with that in order to get to the other side.
You remember Allen Iverson talking about? We talking about practice? Are we talking about practice?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We're talking about practice.
Practice? Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, that's so funny.
But
Well,
the greatest basketball player ever, Michael Jordan, loved practice. He
he
was a
did. He did.
monster in
He was
practice.
also from Chicago.
He was,
I
yeah.
just want to point that out because I want to make sure that my city is represented. Boston is cool too, but I mean it's no Chicago, so I'm just gonna leave
Right.
that there. Leave that there. It is. We're still streaming live. I just checked. So I think
Are we still
Micah.
live? They didn't cut us off.
I'm looking on. It's still running. It's still running. I think.
We broke the machine.
We broke the
We
internet.
created a
We did
live
it.
prompt, and
Yeah.
we took that prompt,
They might have
and
forgot to turn us off. They might have forgot.
I
Prompt
think
of
we
the
got to
day
turn
was.
this off. Actually, I think
I
we were
think we
supposed to
do. I think we
respect your
do.
time,
I think
but
we do.
we have the gun.
We have come and we have conquered. You said we have the gun. We gotta let people
Okay, get
digest the
back to dinner.
information. Let them
Right.
digest the information, and then come back with questions. But I've enjoyed this conversation, and I hope other people have as well.
All right. I'll leave.
You said, "All right." We have to, Micah. We have to. Otherwise, people won't be able to get to your podcast and your knowledge because
Oh,
we
that's
won't
true.
have. So, you know what I
Yes. All
mean?
right.
So, we got to get back to podcasting. Continue to follow Micah and Micah Logan. Did you give all of the places they can find you and follow?
Um. Yeah. No, I don't. I'm terrible at this stuff because I don't want people to follow me, but I do like people
My
following me.
God, what kind of
I know. My personality is a contradiction. So, Instagram, you can follow me at Micah Logan 1.
Okay.
That's Micah, like in the Bible, MICAH Logan 1. Just search if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Micah Logan. Just type it in. Um, I'll be the black guy at that name, and then you can search on YouTube the Common Sense shows. Common Sense, as in CENTS, like dollars and cents.
Yeah,
And yeah, the Alive Podcast Network. Please listen, download, subscribe, support the artist and the talent on the Live Podcast Network because we put it out on the field in the court and the microphone for you.
that's what we
Um,
do. That's how we
Somebody
roll.
has to help me pay for this very expensive microphone that I bought to be successful, and
Amen.
that might as well be you.
That might that might as well. And you heard it right here from Micah Logan himself. Thank you, Micah. Thank you, Angel Livis. Thank you, Alive Podcast Network. There's no place like Alive. We strive to be and we strive to become alive in all things. Amen
We'll
and
never
amen.
get invited back to do this prompt again.
No, she's like, that's a wrap. Nikita, no. Micah, no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Angel, I'm sorry. I tried to stop. That was Micah. That was Micah. I was trying to
It
stop.
was. I'm
It was.
sorry.
It was. Follow Pivotal Moment. Follow Micah Logan and Common Sense Show, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye. You're hilarious. I think you have. Yeah, that's it.